Shadugim is that, that's what we are. Okay, we're on page Ayin, and it is 9 lines at the top. The line begins with the word shevah festivities. And we are towards the end of that line, Adugum is that. We are explaining the principle of bechirah. That the principle of bechirah which means choosing something not because of an identifiable value relative to other things, but because of the chooser's relationship to it, essential relationship to it. That's what we hear. I'm explaining that this bechirah is an expression of how things are all the way in the source, in the chooser's presence, rather than how it manifests later on to choose one thing over another by observation of their differences. This is something, this is meaningless, this is connected, this is not connected. And so to give us an inkling, a handle on this type of choice, discusses the illustration from Simchas B'lo Yechida, that when a man makes a simcha of a wedding, a marriage of his son, B'lo Yechida, that simcha emanates from the essence of the Father. It is not, as may seem, to celebrate an enjoyable event, an impressive event, and so on. It's a simcha that breaks forth directly from the essence of the Father. Although that during that simcha, there is a broader inclusion, but it actually includes friends and relatives, and even further out, even people who are not related at all to the simcha. He allows them to join also, and he provides for them the means of which to rejoice. Nevertheless, the core is, in the sense that remains intact, and that is the source of all the whole simcha, and that becomes manifest after all the celebrations, all festivities end. So everyone that is part, therefore, for the celebration, the festivity, leaves. Who remains? Remains only the father and the son, that was those who are directly, personally connected to this sin. This is what's expressed in the Gemara, regarding Shmini Atzeres, that this is what's called Galgil Aniviyat. The Melech says to his personal, very close friend, let us rejoice, just you and I. Even though there was a big rejoicing, everybody was included, that core was a center, and this was the principle that reverberated and spread forth into the broader celebration. And again, as we explained, this is where we are prone to err. This core is literally rooted in the essence. It is not for the sake of celebration, for the sake of rejoicing. It's not due to personal pride and personal accomplishment. This actually emanates from the essence from the essence. As we explained in the Moshe, it says that a son is not just someone that a father loves. A son represents the father way beyond the father's own presence. It represents a certain depth or reality of the son, of the father, that can hardly be defined in a simple world of terms. And this is what surfaces at the very end. So thus, the similar idea will be able to understand the way things are lamayla. This supreme distinction, that is.
Which line are you on, Rabbi Paltiel?
I'm sorry?
Which line are you on?
On the line that begins lamayla. Before I count this, it must be the 10th line from the top.
Okay, got it.
So this, the motion from the sun and the chasana, this and now will shed light on the Inyanim Malamayla. The Havdalah Eliyena, and this supreme Havdalah separation. Shabei Bechinas Pnimis Hataynu VeHarotzai, that is there, that's separate between the aspect of the Pnimius Hataynu VeHarotzai. Shabbeteinu Mitzvahs Haklulim Be'atzmus Yisborah. Teinu Mitzvahs, which are Haklulim, which are one and incorporated in Atzmus. V'chein Nishamas Yisrael, and similar Nishamas Yisrael, Sha'olu, who have risen, which means they were conceptualized. The Pnimis v'Atzmus HaMatzah Mamash. Within the Atzmus of the Matzah Mamash, the Etzem Mamash. And we explained early on, when we talked about this in the bechirah, Torah mitzvahs, you can readily see how Torah mitzvahs are distinguished from any other kind of rules that rule the world. Neshamas Yisrael, if there's a bechirah Neshamas Yisrael, what is Neshamas Yisrael? What is, so to speak, what identifies Neshamas Yisrael? Not in terms of Maila, in terms of why would they show, but what is the special identity of Neshamas Yisrael? So we said way back when, the identity of Neshamas Yisrael is in their beating.
Is there what?
Their beating. Pitul means that they relate, they're capable of, of, of accepting guidance, not a guidance that exists in their world, that fits into the world in which they exist, but a guidance that is completely beyond their world. And they relate to it not because it's a guidance, but because this higher source, the etzem, so vicious. This is the unique union of Neshama Yisrael. This is what's chosen. Neshama Yisrael she'olu b'pnimis mi'asmas ha'matzah mamash. Neshama Yisrael, they were, as I said, olu, conceptualized in the pnimis and asmas ha'matzah. And when it says mamash means in the etzem of the matzil, not in his will, not in his oinet, but in his essence, which precedes will and oinet. Will and oinet is a manifestation of this essence. Shekvar nivdalu v'nivradu, and thus from there on they were separated, v'nivraru, and they were purified. Li'is bahem davko, that only to them should be applied mechinas ha'tainug ha'atzmi, should be applied this inyan of tainug ha'atzmi. In other words, he chose Neshama Yisrael, and what was the choice about? What did he choose it for? That he should be misanig in them. That Tainug Ha'atzmi should focus on them. This is what he wants. So we discussed this on the previous page. This is one of those very fine and subtle principles that the Gemara says that when the Rebbe created light, and there was oil and choshen, there was darkness and light. And darkness and light both represented a God-like truth, fundamental reality. Darkness, clearly darkness is the fundamental reality of the world, and light also was a godly light. And therefore the mother says, Eini idea b'mechot. At that point, I don't know which of these two he prefers, the darkness or the light. And the way the Medrash expresses it, darkness is associated with Rishoy, Maser Rishoy, and light is associated with Maser Tzaddik. Which should you prefer, Maser Rishoy or Maser Tzaddik? One time we discussed this expression here. The point is, there is nothing compelling him to choose one or the other. So when it says, when Elohim saw that light is good, that was a choice. By choice it was good. Not that light is good, inherent, better than darkness. As far as he's concerned, you could do either. But he actually chose and says, no, light is the thing that I want. This is the choice I want.
This point, he chose light, and the point here is not based on any features.
Right.
Which I mean, that seems just inscrutable. I mean, do we have any grip what choice means there? There's nothing to say there.
Right.
What's the question?
No, it was just reiterating what we just said. The choice of light was a choice of light. Choice of light. initially, by looking at both light and darkness, looking at both from a godly perspective, he couldn't tell which one he's going to choose. So we discussed this quite a while ago. We will discuss, probably the first time we learned this, and we'll discuss it soon now, a little bit more, to bring it a little bit closer to a meaningful thought process.
So where are we?
We are the line begins nivdelu. Right? At this point it would be 12 lines from the top. Nivdelu. Nivdelu. They were identified and distinguished from everything else. Li'izbahem dafka. That only to them should be applied. Bechirah Tammuz atzmi. This in aspect of Tammuz atzmi. Ubahem dafko, and therefore by choice, only by them, within them, yiyeh pnimis hakavonahu atzmis. That should be, they should represent the pnimis hakavonahu atzmis, the deepest, the personal kavana of atzmi. Then he said in parentheses, okay, as we said many times, this is, okay. We'll discuss in Mitzvah Shem, we'll get a little bit of an inkling, but let's focus in on the parentheses. The Gam Zois, and this itself, Lirtzos, that he should want, that he should want and choose to want that which is the pnimis of his ratzon. Kana, as you mentioned before, that the fact that he wants that which is pnimis and tzoyne, that is by choice. There's nothing compelling about it. That Pnimis Yitzayin should be the rotten of choice, that is by choice. Canal, as we already mentioned before, V'hakoil echod hu, and all of these principles that we bring in identifying the principle of bechirah, essentially are saying the same thing. He chooses what he should choose. And the choice is Pnimi Sorot. That itself is a choice, that he should choose Pnimi Sorot. So we're here, let's focus in and try to understand a little bit what is he saying. Now, there is Pnimis Harotzen and there is Chitzonius Harotzen. As we already discussed briefly on the previous page, Pnimis Harotzen is that Rotzen that emanates from the essence itself. This is his Rotzen. Why does he have this Rotzen? Not because of anything that creates and compels this Rotzen. Because this is a Rotzen that emanates from him, from what he is. Now, let's take also from the human being. A person wants a home in design the way he likes it. If the home is not desirable the way he likes it, then he can't associate with his home. And he feels uncomfortable. He will not call it his home. Why? Because when he goes into the home, he is actually experiencing the phenomenon of being in his home. And maybe he should be in a different home. He won't be able to experience that affinity.
He's experiencing the what? What's the word used? The manna?
He experiences the phenomenon of being in this home.
Phenomenal, okay.
And he feels comfortable in it. If this home were designed differently than according to his will, then he would not feel this affinity with the home. He would not feel this special conflict in this home. In other words, this home is something that he personally experiences. This is what makes it a home. And this is why the home has to be precisely according to his Pnimis Harotzen. Why does a person relate to a home in such a deep fashion that he actually experiences the whole being in the home? Because the home is very significant to him. As we say all the time, the home makes him into a person. This whole experience of him being in the home is primarily significant to him as a human being, not for any functional and further down reasons. It defines his present who he is. And therefore the home reflects his rotzen, and if it reflects his rotzen, then he wants it. Because it is, so to speak, compelled to want his rotzen. Because otherwise he will not feel comfortable in his home. Therefore, the whole phenomenon that there is a Pnimis Harotzen in the home is due to the fact that he is actually experiencing his bound. That's what we said before, that he is bound with that Ayin that he wants, and that's why it's called a compelling element. He does not enjoy the home by choice. He enjoys the home because he's involved in it. The Milo, there is not such a phenomenon that he is bound with anything. And therefore, that he is bound to want it in a certain way, in a way that is reflective of his pneumius. As he says over here in this parenthesis, which is quite a statement, that the principle that he should want things the way they are in his pneumius, that itself is by choice. Because personally he's not affected by anything. Nothing contributes to his well-being, so to speak, to his comfort. And yet, this is where we're coming to the powerful material. Nothing contributes to his comfort. Nothing is compelling. He should want things because they are bepnimius with saying that he likes them. It's not necessary. He can take it and leave it. And yet, he so chooses that this which is previous origin, this should be his will, and there he should tie. This is what he should tie. I wanted to add to those who are here alert, please. What is this choice?
What is this source? What is this?
What is this choice?
Choice.
What does it mean? This is pnimis v'tzoino, and yet he doesn't necessarily need to want it. If this is pnimis v'tzoino, why? How can he not want it? In what way is it pnimis v'tzoino? I'm going to have to deviate slightly and then come back. In Avodas Hashem, we know that there are two distinct aspects. There is Borimam Rishus, given Rishus. Rishus means permissible activity. It means you follow in your path of life in the world, but you live in the world in a proper manner, in a manner that is reflective of godly goodness and godly principles. Which is called the general human activity that is not a mitzvah, not a requirement, not a command, but it's in accordance with the godly principles. Then there is a completely different dimension, and that's called Torah mitzvahs. Torah mitzvahs, this is not, does not define how the world, the goodness of within the world parameters. It's the godly goodness directly. Torah mitzvahs is the godly presence in the world. Period. It's not identifying world in a godly manner. It is identifying God in the world. Period. The difference between these two I'm interrupting, I'm going to get the charger. I have 20%. Right. That's an example. What?
That's the example you want to
Right. The difference is this. In B'chol Derechecha Do'ehu, you recognize the presence of the world. But you recognize also that the world is a godly creation. And therefore, it should be treated and should be practiced according to godly principles. But what are you practicing? Worldly experience. Torah mitzvahs is an entirely different experience. Torah mitzvahs is not practicing worldly experience. Torah mitzvahs is a statement that you don't recognize world altogether. You're acting in the world, but not to experience world. You experience godliness, God. You're doing it because God commanded me to do this. God commanded me to do this. It doesn't fit into the world, as a matter of fact. But you're making a statement that God the presence. So this is a completely different type of operation. These two modes represent two modes of God's presence in the world. Whether it is a world that is godly or that is God in the world. I'm just giving this so we can have a handle. What is the choice? God had chosen Torah mitzvahs, and He chosen the Neshamas Yisrael. And we said many times, other nations are also capable of goodness and kindness, and they're also given 7 mitzvahs. What's unique about the Neshamas Yisrael? The unique thing about the Neshamas Yisrael is that they don't care about the goodness in the world. That's an issue. We don't even know how it's going to reflect itself in the world. We only know the godly presence itself. Now at least we have a handle. I'm not saying conclusively. I'm giving you a handle. What was the choice? He wanted Torah mitzvahs. What's special about Torah mitzvahs that was not in the world, in the good world? The godly presence itself. And God wanted to be in the world. In what way did He want to be in the world? He wanted to be in the world to affect that the world should be a godly world, or to be present in it.
Be present.
To be present. This is not a compelling image. This is a bechirah. it's a little bit of a daring in on my part to start identifying these things, but I felt I need to give some kind of a handle. What was this choice about? If it makes no difference, so why did you choose?
Rabbi Paltiel?
Why is it choosing or why is it choosing?
No, what was the choice? In what way was it a choice? To choose, you have to distinguish between two things. What's the distinction? Not which is better and which is worse. That's not the question. The question, what's the difference between them? So we're saying the difference between them is not something that really can be tangibly identified. The only I'm saying, I'm giving a little bit of a, the only difference that we can identify is that it's a difference whether to be in the world in a godly way or to be only know only one thing, only in the God.
What's the second thing?
Only know God, not a godly world.
So there's no bechol or chesed, basically.
It's beyond the Chol. It's no mitzvah itself.
Only know God, but while you're in the world.
Right. Okay. Again, I present this so we should have a little bit an understanding. This is a choice because these two things, there's not a compelling. They don't make any difference to Hashem, so to speak. But He wanted to be there in His creation, not just that you have a good creation, a decent creation, but to be there. This brings us back to our classic illustration of the host and the guest. The guest can have everything wonderful, reflective of the ideas of the kindness and the goodness of the boss, but not the boss himself. Boss himself is a completely different phenomenon. All right, I have to stop for a second. I have to get my charger, otherwise we're going to lose the connection. Just one Yes. How about if I don't go on, just review what you already said and then you ask a question. So we have a clarity what we have said. Because, okay, is that all right with you?
If you diyash that you should review it, yes, 100%.
Okay. Okay. Here is the subtle principle that is elusive. In the Shomas Israel, specifically, they were separated, and the Tainago Atzmi has already been identified with them. Tainago Atzmi. This is the Tainago Alaki. But then, there's an additional selection. Yes, indeed, this is the Tainago Atzmi. But there's an additional thing. They were chosen to identify the Kavona Elokis, the Kavona Atzmis, the ultimate intent in the whole creation. That's already a uniform bechirah. In addition to the fact that they are in Pnimis Orotzim, but a Pnimis Orotzim should be the center of the Kavona Elokis. That's an additional point. And then another thing in the parentheses. Which is, in other words, essentially the same thing. To want, he says, to want the Pnimis Orotzim, you would think that if this is Pnimis Orotzim, then automatically that is his choice. That is what he wants. So there's no, this is the Pnimis Orotzim. But Lirtzois, to want and to select that which is Pnimis Orotzim, that is already a selection. That itself is a selection. This is extremely difficult to understand. This is what we attempted to explain. By a person, if this is his Pnimis Orotzim, this is what his nefesh wants it, that is automatically his pursuit. Why? Because that which he pursues, he experiences. And if he experiences that which is not in accordance with his personal preference, he's not counted. Because your personal experiences. Now we give an example of a home. If the home is not designed according to his wishes, according to his will, then he will not feel comfortable in the home. Why? Because he actually dwells there, he actually experiences its effect. So therefore, over there is not an extra step of choice. That which is Pnimis Orotzim is automatically his choice. Lamaila, these are two separate steps. Pnimis Orotzim, this identifies what a Lakus wants. But that he should choose that above, in lieu of something else, that's not necessarily so. because he doesn't get involved in it. Like we said, the Moshe from the Gemara. Oir and Choshech. Oir is more representative in a sense of a Elokus than Choshech. Like the Mishnah said, the Mother says, Maaseh Horshoyim and Maaseh Atzadik. Do we have time? Let me just see if I have time to discuss this. What time is it?
9:47.
With your permission, I want to discuss this. What is Maaseh Horshoyim, Maaseh Atzadik? The man says, I don't know what he wants. Maaseh Horshoyim or Maaseh Atzadik? What does that mean? We know, for example, that the Rebbe explains that there was the Mabel, the flood that destroyed the world. The Rebbe explains the Poor says that it was destroyed because it was chomus. There was robbery. There was dishonesty. For robbery, you deserve death. There's no such law in the Torah. For robbery, you have to go. Of course, you get to jail, you get malchus. If you swore, there are all kinds of different methods of punishment for robbery. All the whole Chofetz Chaim, they want to destroy the whole world, wipe it off the map. So the Rebbe explained what's the meaning that there are two different meanings in corruption. There's a corruption that is limited to corrupt action. Corrupt action, so the world is still there, but they act in a corrupted way. Then there is another level of corruption, when the whole base of the whole existence is corrupt. There is not one iota that's left not corrupt. There's no world. There's no world. There's nothing there to do salvage. That's why the world is. In other words, we can readily understand that the Rebbe does not want a corrupt world. Not because he doesn't want it, because it's not a world to sustain. There's no point of this world. There's no world if it's corrupt. So what does it mean? We don't know whether he wants Maaseh Atzadik or Maaseh Horshoyim. What then is a pshat? Maaseh Horshoyim does not mean evil people. Maaseh Horshoyim means people who are pursuing their personal benefit through the path of worldly pathways. For example, and just to take him a little bit of a grain of salt, just to understand the principle. If one pursues accumulation of wealth through just directly for the purpose of accumulation of wealth, and he utilizes all kinds of different gimmicks of procuring wealth, even if it is honest, even if it is not corrupt, what is he pursuing? What is he pursuing? What does wealth mean?
Accumulation of
Possessions.
I'm asking a question. Please give me an answer, not just what is the answer? What does he want? He wants to build himself.
Suffer.
There's no purpose in it. He wants to build himself up. This is Maaseh Horshoyim. What would be if he's built himself up? Nothing. What?
Nothing to him. To whom?
To nothing, to nobody.
What's to him?
Was it to him?
I can't.
What is it to him?
What
did he accomplish?
He made himself bigger.
And therefore, what happened?
Takes up more space.
This is from Maaseh Hoshea.
Why is that? But we all do that. Everybody does that.
Well, we're showing him what he has eaten.
So we're all Rishayim.
Yeah.
Abai, don't let anybody live.
We are, we combine, we have we want a little bit for ourselves, a little bit for others. But this is altogether just Maaseh Hoshea. It's not Maaseh Hoshea. It's Maaseh Tzaddik. Maaseh Tzaddik means that they're focused on revealing godliness in the world. Not to reveal